Old money can spot a fake in under 3 seconds. Here's how. Not the watch, not the car, not the logoless sweater you paid $800 for. It's 6 things they say and do without thinking, and once I show you, you will never mistake fake wealth for real wealth again. Number 1 is the one that exposes almost everyone. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. The wardrobe war is already over. Anyone with a credit line and a Pinterest board can buy the beige linen, the tennis sweater, the gold-rimmed sunglasses. It's not hard anymore. Everyone's onto it, which is exactly why it stopped working as a test. So real wealth quietly changed the test, not the clothes, the conversation. The 6 things I'm about to walk you through don't live in a closet. They live in a half-second pause before someone answers a question, in the words they reach for without thinking, in how a face moves when someone gets accidentally disrespected. That's the new decoder. And most people watching this right now have never once been taught to look for it. Here's Signal 1, and it's the one that catches people the fastest. Signal 1, the price reflex. The next time someone brings up money in a group, don't listen to what they say. Watch how fast they say it. Old money almost never states a number unprompted. Ask a person from real generational wealth what their house is worth and you'll get something like, "Oh, I have no idea, we've had it forever." That's not modesty. It's genuine. Because in that world, the house was never bought to be valued, it was inherited to be lived in. Now watch an imposter. You barely have to ask. The number arrives fast, specific, and slightly too proud. "Yeah, we picked it up for 2.3. It's probably worth 3.1 now." Nobody asked for the appreciation rate. Nobody asked for the exact number. That eagerness to quote a figure is the tell, because real old money was raised with one unbreakable rule. Money is discussed in abstractions, never in digits and never first. Here's the part that'll surprise you. This rule is so deep that even old money kids who grow up broke, who lose the family fortune entirely, will still refuse to state a price out loud. The behavior survives the money. That's how you know it was never about the money to begin with. It was about how they were raised to relate to it, which means the price reflex isn't even the most interesting signal. It's just the easiest one to catch. The next one is quieter, and it's the one that exposes people the second they open their mouths. Signal 2, the over-explainer. Because here's the one that exposes people the second they open their mouth. Pay attention to how people justify their choices. An imposter over-explains. Ask why they bought a particular watch, a particular bag, or a particular car, and you'll get a paragraph. The heritage of the brand, the craftsmanship, why it was worth it. They are building a case because somewhere inside they need you to agree that the purchase was smart. Real old money doesn't build a case for anything. Ask why they bought something and you'll usually get a shrug and one sentence. "I liked it." That's it. No defense because no one is on trial. There's a phrase for this in psychology. It's called justification pressure, and it only shows up in people who are still proving something, even to themselves. This is the loudest quiet tale there is. Confidence doesn't explain itself. Insecurity does. Next time someone gives you the full backstory on why their choice was correct, you're not watching taste. You're watching an audition. And auditions have a tell of their own, a physical one. It shows up on the face before a single word gets said, and it's the hardest one on this list to fake on command. Signal 3, the mistaken identity test. This is the one that shows up on the face, and it's almost impossible to fake in the moment, no matter how good the rest of the costume is. Old money, at some point in their lives, has been mistaken for staff, mistaken for someone who doesn't belong. A hostess assumes they can't afford the tasting menu. A salesperson ignores them in favor of someone flashier. And here's the reaction that gives away real wealth every single time. They find it funny, genuinely funny. Their sense of who they are was never built on being recognized. It was built long before anyone in that room was even born. Now put an imposter in that exact same moment. Get mistaken for the help. Get overlooked by a salesperson. Get treated like you don't belong. And watch the face. There's a flicker, a tightening around the jaw. Sometimes it turns into overcorrecting, suddenly mentioning where they went to school or who they know, completely unprompted, just to reclaim the room. That flicker has a name: status anxiety. And status anxiety only exists in people whose status has, at some point, actually been questioned. which is exactly why old money never has that flicker. Their status was never up for debate in the first place. Not by a stranger, not by a room, not by anyone. Now, before Signal 4, because Signal 4 might be the most useful one on this entire list, I want to show you where all 6 of these actually come from. Because none of this is instinct. It's trained. Signal 4, the maintenance tell. Here's the one I told you might be the most useful on this whole list, because it's almost nobody talks about, and it's brutally accurate. Imposters know the price of new things. Old money knows the price of keeping things. Ask someone who just bought their way into luxury how much it costs to restring a good tennis racket, or resole a pair of leather shoes, or reline a wool coat, and what comes back is silence. They've never needed to know, because everything they own is new. Ask someone from real generational wealth the same question, and the answer comes instantly. Their tennis racket is the same one from boarding school. Their shoes have been resoled 4 times. Their coat belonged to their father. Maintenance knowledge only exists in people who have kept things for decades. You cannot fake 40 years of upkeep with a good outfit no matter how much you spend on it. Which brings up something interesting, because it's not just what people keep that gives them away, it's what they talk about. And the direction of that one detail is almost impossible to control once someone starts talking. Signal 5, the name drop direction. Here's the detail people give away without even noticing, and once you hear it, you'll never not hear it again. Listen to what someone name drops when they tell a story. I was at the Hermes store versus I was at the house in Bar Harbor. One is a transaction. The other is a memory. Anyone can walk into a store today and buy what's inside it. Nobody can walk into a family home that's been in the family for 3 generations, or a childhood friendship, or a decades-old club membership. Those things can't be purchased, only inherited or lived, which means the direction of the name drop was never random. Imposters name drop brands because brands are the only proof they have. Old money name drops places and people because places and people are the actual proof. When someone's stories are full of logos, they're telling you what they bought. When someone's stories are full of names and geography, they're telling you where they're from. That's the difference between spending money and having roots. And that brings us to the last one, the one that doesn't need a single word to give someone away. This one you can catch from across the room before they've even opened their mouth. Signal 6, the stillness signal. Last one, and it's the one you can actually catch from across a room before anyone said a single word. Watch someone's eyes in a room full of impressive people. Imposters scan. It's subtle, but it's there, a quick read of who's watching, who's important, and who might be worth impressing. Old money doesn't scan. They don't need to know who's important because their sense of importance was never assigned by a room in the first place. This is why real old money can look almost bored at events that would make anyone else nervous. Not rude, just unbothered. Stillness in this world isn't a personality trait, it's physical evidence. Evidence of someone who has never once had to prove themselves to a stranger. And once you can see that, once you can actually spot the scan versus the stillness, you can't unsee any of this. Which is exactly why the 6 signals matter less than what they actually reveal. That's all 6. And here's what's underneath all of them, the one thing every single signal is actually measuring. None of this is really about money. It never was. It's about whether someone spent their life trying to become something, or whether they were simply raised inside it and never had to think about it twice. Now, that sounds like an impossible gap to close. It sounds like the kind of thing you either have or you don't. But here's what that framing gets wrong. Every single behavior on this list, the restraint, the refusal to justify yourself, the stillness, the calm in the face of being underestimated, none of it requires inheritance. It requires practice. These aren't traits. They're trained habits passed down like table manners. And trained habits can be learned by anyone at any point, regardless of where they started. You are not locked out of this. You're just early in the training. Now, before you go. Next week, I'm breaking down the 6 phrases old money never says out loud. And I want to be specific about why that video matters. It's not about avoiding certain words. It's about what those words reveal about how you actually see yourself, your relationship with money, with status, with whether you feel like you belong in certain rooms. It goes deeper than this one. If today's video changed how you're going to read people, next week's will change how you read yourself. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And one more thing, drop a comment and tell me which of these 6 signals you've caught in someone before. Not a celebrity, not a character, someone you actually know in a real room. I read every single one.